Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to sift through, well, quite a stack of sources, articles, news reports, a bit of research, basically trying to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from the last few days.
hmm
Our mission really is to cut through all that noise and just give you a clear, hopefully engaging snapshot of what's happening and, why it actually matters.
That's absolutely right. And we've got a pretty diverse set of sources today.
Mm.
Everything from global players like BBC News, UN News, right through to key Indian outlets. Think Google News, Mint, India Today, The Economic Times.
A good mix.
Yeah, the goal is really to pull out those core stories, maybe connect a few dots, and help you understand the bigger picture.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're going to look at some major global stuff, shifting trade, ongoing conflicts, a pretty significant U.S. domestic event.
Right.
Then we'll shift focus to some critical news out of India, and we'll round it off with some genuinely inspiring updates from science and sports. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's start with the economy. Specifically, these renewed trade talks between India and the U.S. It feels like these are popping up again after some previous tension.
Yeah, they are. And what's really at stake here is, well, an effort to, as India Today put it, rescue a free trade deal.
Rescue. So it was in trouble.
Pretty much. It faced real doubt because of these punitive tariffs the U.S. had proposed earlier. And it's not just, dry economic talks. We've seen, for instance, former Trump aide Peter Navarro launch what Mint called a fresh attack, hitting out over tariffs and India buying Russian oil.
Ah, the Russian oil angle again.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And this isn't just talk. The immediate impact U.S. tariffs have really hit India's aqua sector. The Andhra Pradesh chief minister is actually seeking help from the central government over it. That's from the Economic Times and India Today.
Okay, so real consequences on the ground. Is this friction, do you think, just a negotiation tactic? Or is there something deeper, maybe more ideological going on that could affect the long-term U.S.-India relationship?
Well, it's likely a bit of both, isn't it? I mean, tariffs, sure, they're often a tool to get leverage in talks.
Right.
But the fact that things like the Russian oil purchases keep coming up, especially from figures like Navarro, it sort of suggests a broader alignment challenge. It hints at maybe a divergence in strategic priorities. The U.S. might be looking for closer alignment on its foreign policy, even if that impacts trade. So, yeah, it gets complex beyond just economics into geopolitics.
Interesting. Okay, so from trade negotiations, let's shift to the global security stage. There's been significant movement there, too. Let's start with this incident involving a Venezuelan vessel.
Indeed. BBC News, Mint, India. Today, they've all detailed the U.S. destruction of what they alleged was a Venezuelan drug boat.
Oh,
Tragically, 3 people were killed in international waters.
wow.
And following that, President Trump issued a very, very strong warning to Venezuelan cartels. He said quite bluntly, "We are hunting you."
Hunting you, that's strong language.
It is. And it signals potentially a more aggressive stance on international drug interdiction.
Hmm.
It raises questions, frankly, about operational boundaries, legal precedents for actions like that in open waters. It feels like a shift towards more direct engagement.
Okay. And turning now to the Middle East, obviously a highly dynamic situation there. Major developments in Gaza.
Yes, sources like Mint and India Today are reporting Israel launching a ground offensive with the aim of occupying Gaza City.
Occupying the city itself.
That's the report. And this is happening while Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu denies having prior knowledge of that strike in Qatar that killed Hamas leaders. He asserts it was a, quote, wholly independent Israeli operation. He's also maintained Israel's right to defend itself beyond its borders and hasn't ruled out more strikes on Hamas leaders abroad. BBC News and India Today noted that.
And the UN's reaction.
The UN has condemned what it calls this deadly escalation in Gaza City.
Right. The situation is clearly intense. But what about the broader implications? I saw mention of this comparison to a South Africa moment. What's that about?
Yeah, that's coming from the BBC's diplomatic correspondent, connecting the dots, asking if Israel's facing a South Africa moment. The comparison draws parallels between how the world is reacting, or might react, to Israel's actions now and how it reacted to apartheid-era South Africa. It basically suggests, that Israel's policies, particularly in Gaza, could lead to increased diplomatic isolation, maybe sanctions, serious reputational damage, much like the global pressure South Africa faced. It's a very potent analogy.
Potent and politically charged, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, from those international flashpoints, let's bring it closer to home for the U.S., this major domestic event, the death of Charlie Kirk. It's been everywhere.
It really has. Front and center in our sources. India Today reports Kirk was struck in the neck while he was speaking to students at an outdoor Turning Point USA event.
Just struck while speaking.
Yeah. The suspect, Tyler Robinson, was caught after a 33-hour manhunt. And FBI Chief Kash Patel confirmed Robinson's DNA was found on a towel wrapped around the suspected weapon. That's from BBC News and the Economic Times. Mint adds that Robinson apparently confessed in a Discord chat and seemed to have, an obsession with Kirk.
And the political reaction, it seems to have been immediate and, divisive.
Absolutely profound, yeah. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance actually hosted Kirk's radio show. He used that platform to vow a crackdown on far-left violence, honoring his slain friend. That's reported across India Today, Mint, BBC News.
A crackdown.
And notably, Vance also called for people to report anyone celebrating Kirk's death to their employers. BBC News highlighted that specifically. The Economic Times just observes that this assassination has really divided Republicans and Democrats, just deepening those existing splits.
So it seems like rather than maybe prompting reflection on violence itself, it's fueling the partisan fire.
That's very much how it appears from the coverage, yes. It seems tragic events like this are increasingly just absorbed into the partisan conflict, almost weaponized, rather than leading to any kind of broader national moment about, the roots of such violence.
That's a sobering thought. Are there any voices in the sources calling for, say, de-escalation of rhetoric? Or is it mostly this confrontational response?
The vast majority of the coverage, especially that we've seen, focuses on that escalation, particularly from Republican leaders condemning far less violence. While there's obviously general concern about political violence, the sources aren't really highlighting widespread calls for dialing down the temperature from across the spectrum in response to this specific event.
Okay.
It seems to have just become another flashpoint, reinforcing existing narratives rather than bridging divides.
Right. Okay, let's step away from that deeply divisive U.S. landscape now and shift our focus to India. Lots happening there, too. Deadlines, societal issues, environmental concerns. Let's start with something practical. Income tax filings.
Yes, some relief perhaps for many taxpayers in India. The Income Tax Department announced a one-day extension for filing income tax returns ITRs for the 2024-25 fiscal year. The new deadline is September 16th. That's confirmed by Google News, Mint, and India Today.
It was one day, but why the extension?
Well, according to India Today and Mint, it was to allow for necessary updates and changes in the filing utilities. Basically, the e-filing portal needed some maintenance right at crunch time.
Ah, okay. So beyond the last-minute scramble it avoids, does this tell us anything about the e-filing system itself, or maybe the challenges taxpayers face?
Well, this kind of pattern last-minute extensions, often because of technical glitches or portal updates, it does sort of suggest maybe an ongoing issue with the system's stability or readiness, especially during peak periods.
Yeah, it puts pressure on everyone.
Exactly. Undue stress on taxpayers, on professionals. It highlights that even as we push for digital, the execution sometimes, it needs to be robust and reliable, especially for such crucial processes.
Makes sense. Now, India has also seen some really tragic incidents and natural calamities recently. These seem to highlight ongoing challenges. Public safety, infrastructure, maybe environmental resilience.
Yeah, it feels like a convergence of different challenges right now. In Delhi, there's been this really high-profile BMW crash. Google News reports a woman driver, Gaganpreet Kaur, was held for killing a finance ministry officer. But what's causing a lot of controversy is her decision, apparently, to take the victim to a hospital 20 kilometers away, bypassing a nearby trauma center.
Why would she do that?
That's the big question. Lawyers involved are saying it was not just an accident. And the accused lawyer, according to the Economic Times, claims the initial police report, the FIR, contradicts what the Deputy Commissioner of Police said in a press conference. They're arguing against culpable homicide charges. And, there's this really poignant detail from Google News about birthday gifts the victim had for his parents that, they weren't to be. Just heartbreaking.
Terribly sad. And there are other incidents, too.
Yes. Alongside that, India Today reported a speeding truck, losing control in indoor, plowing into a crowd in vehicles, killing at least 2 people. And then, on the weather front, a cloudburst in Dehradun after heavy rain. Mint, India Today, the Economic Times all covered it. Cars, shops washed away, 2 people missing. Plus an orange alert for heavy rain in Chennai.
Wow. And flooding elsewhere, too.
Yeah, looking just across the border, India Today shared news of the River Ravi flooding Lahore in Pakistan, apparently for the first time in nearly 40 years.
It's a long time.
It is. And it really exposes vulnerabilities from, urban development, maybe some ecological neglect over the years.
Okay, that's That's a lot to take in. What's the big picture here? What do all these varied incidents sort of tell us collectively about the region?
Well, I think collectively they paint a picture of ongoing vulnerabilities across different areas.
Yeah.
The Delhi crash raises questions about legal accountability, maybe emergency response effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
The indoor accident points to persistent road safety issues. And then the cloudburst, the Chennai alert, the Lahore flooding, they all highlight increasing environmental volatility, don't they? And maybe critical gaps in urban planning and infrastructure to cope with extreme weather. The Lahore example is particularly stark, how unchecked development and maybe ignoring ecological factors can suddenly expose the city to risks it hasn't seen in decades. It's a reminder that development needs to go hand in hand with safeguards.
A very important point. Okay, let's pivot now to some notable legal and political developments within India.
Right. Well, first up, the Enforcement Directorate, the ED, India's main agency for economic crimes, they've filed a charge sheet against Chaitanya Bagal. He's the son of the former Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh, Bhupesh Bagal. This is part of an ongoing liquor scam investigation, according to India Today and the Economic Times.
Okay, so focus on accountability there.
Exactly. It underscores that ongoing focus on accountability in public life and efforts against corruption. Then the Supreme Court has paused certain clauses of the WACC Act. Now, the WACC Act governs properties donated for religious or charitable purposes under Islamic law in India.
Okay. Why pause parts of it?
The court expressed concern, as reported by India Today, that non-Muslims might potentially convert to Islam just to claim protection under the act, maybe to avoid creditors or other legal obligations. So it's a legal safeguard against potential misuse.
I see. A specific concern about misuse.
Precisely. And finally, just an interesting anecdote reported by India Today. During a land grab case, a top Supreme Court judge shared his experience from the Allahabad High Court. He used it to illustrate how, in his view, all parties indulge in corruption and political manipulation.
Wow, that's quite a statement from a sitting judge.
It is a very candid, maybe sobering perspective from within the judiciary itself about what he sees as ingrained systemic challenges in the legal and political landscape. A rare glimpse, really.
Definitely revealing. Okay, let's shift gears completely now to something much brighter, genuinely positive news for the planet. An environmental win.
Yes, this is truly excellent news. The World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, has put out a report. The Economic Times covers it, basically. The ozone layer is healing.
Healing, that's fantastic.
It really is. It's on track to return to 1980s levels by mid-century. And this incredible success is largely down to the Montreal Protocol, that big international treaty phasing out ozone-depleting chemicals. The report even notes the 2024 Antarctic ozone hole is smaller than in recent years, so real signs of recovery.
That is genuinely fantastic news, a real testament to what happens when the world actually works together. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we could do that for the ozone layer, what lessons can we apply to other huge challenges like climate change?
That's the key question, isn't it? The Montreal Protocol really is a powerful model. I mean, its success came from clear science, commitment from pretty much every country, and crucially, an adaptable approach with funding to help developing nations transition.
Right, the support mechanism was key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It proves collective action, when it's backed by science and done equitably, can reverse massive environmental damage.
Yeah.
Now, climate change is arguably, much more complex, tied into the whole economy, but the blueprint for cooperation, it's there.
A hopeful blueprint. Okay, and staying on the bright side, let's celebrate some pretty impressive sports achievements, too.
Yes. India has truly made history at the Speed Skating World Championships. 2 gold medals. Anandkumar Velkumar won India's first ever senior men's 1,000-meter title.
Wow, first ever.
First ever senior men's gold, yeah. And Chris Sharma took gold in the junior 1,000-meter sprint. India Today calls it a memorable day, showing India's growing strength in global sports.
Fantastic for them. And elsewhere in athletics.
Well, Mondo Duplantis just keeps on flying. He soared to his 14th world record in pole vault, cleared an unbelievable 6.3 U-meters at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. India Today and the Economic Times both highlighting that. His consistency is just stunning.
6.3 U-meters. Incredible. Anything else?
Just briefly on the Asia Cup cricket, Pakistan's facing a bit of a crucial test. Their qualification hopes are shaky after a big loss to India. And there was some controversy around a handshake incident, according to India Today. Plus, the ICC, the International Cricket Council, is apparently likely to reject Pakistan's request to replace the match referee. So a bit of off-field drama adding to the pressure.
Okay, always something happening in cricket. Wow. So From the complexities of global trade and conflict down to domestic legal fights, environmental victories, and these amazing sports moments. Quite the journey through the sources today.
Indeed. And what really stands out, I think, is how interconnected so many of these stories feel. How even things that seem local often ripple outwards, reflecting this really intricate, dynamic world we're in.
Absolutely. So, as you reflect on everything we've explored today, here's something to think about. We talked about the ozone layer's recovery, a powerful example of what sustained international cooperation, driven by science and shared purpose, can actually achieve. With that success story in mind, what global issue do you think is maybe ripe for a similar, coordinated international effort right now? And maybe more importantly, what might be the very first step towards making that kind of effort a reality? Something to ponder.